Chris, thank you so much for coming. I would love for you to introduce yourself to our audience. You're new to our Facebook community. I kind of rededicated that space. What is it?
Oh, I apologize. Please keep going.
Okay. I rededicated our Facebook group recently. October was like the 5th year for my business, Messengers of Spirit. It was like the anniversary. And so I invited like all these wisdom speakers, teachers, healers, intuitives into the space. And I just asked them to like share their magic because I love learning from each other. You know, we each have certain things that we excel at and that we're just really passionate about. And I think we all love, when we're heart-centered, we love to give it away. And we want to share. And so many of us are so compatible. So the amount of teachers and healers and leaders in this community is so amazing. There's a lot of them. And the community tends to be very, very interactive. People love to ask questions. People love to share. So I also want to encourage the audience that tunes in today, live or the replay, if you have questions for Chris about our topic, please do that. So go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me. My name is Chris Alyssia. I am a longtime student of all things metaphysical. I have studied everything you can possibly imagine in a very eclectic way. I never felt like I was really a master of anything. But I cut my teeth on the Edgar Cayce information back in the early 2000s. And one of the things that Edgar Cayce was famous for was his past life information and his dream work. He would give people such detailed information that helped explain why their lives were the way that they were. And that became a passion to me to figure out why my life was the way that it was. After high school, I went into the military. I had a lot of big challenges in the military as a female in a very male-dominated field. I faced attacks, harassment, all sorts of things. Even got breast cancer in my 20s.
Wow.
So I was determined to find out why my life was the way that it was. So I turned to Edgar Cayce very heavily and ended up going to his Atlantic University to become a spiritual mentor. And my favorite class was dream interpretation.
Nice.
By going into my dreams, and I have what I call epic dreams. I have dreams where I come out sweating because I was running so hard in the dreams.
Wow.
And they have like chapters and they move around and they're so vivid. It's like a blockbuster.
Wow.
So when I started going into my dreams and really looking at what they were telling me, I realized so many things about myself. One, that I was a warrior in a way that I hadn't acknowledged before. But two, that this ideal side of myself that I'd always said, you know, I wish I could be X, was there. It was in my dreams. It wasn't my imagination that I wanted to be these things. It was spirit telling me you are these things.
Wow.
So dreams have meant so much to me, and it's something I am very passionate about, and I love giving back to others. And oh, sorry, I'm trying to close this out. I've got weird pop-ups coming up on my screen. So currently I'm hosting a show on a TV network called Intentiality. Okay. So I brought all my different studies together to teach the commonalities across a bunch of ancient disciplines. So using dream interpretation with life purpose work, looking at the chakras, looking at alchemy, going all the way down into Mary Magdalene's studies, just taking all this information I've acquired and putting it together in a way that helps people see how ancient wisdom applies for today.
Nice.
So it's been an absolute roller coaster. I've just started my own group to start building a sacred community within that mechanism of other people who are just really voracious studies and like to learn and like to be a part of this and have cool discussions. So that's how I came across you. We were talking about past lives and things of that nature. It's such a great place to be and a great time to be alive. So I'm very, very excited to share it with your crew.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to have you. We actually have the Edgar Cayce link in common. That was one of the first teachers that my guides kind of steered me toward learning about, and I actually had a pretty big couple. So, I'm like a divine channel, a divine conduit, and I don't have to close my eyes and go into trance anymore per se. I'm able to stay more conscious and awake, but allow the transfer of information to come through. But I learned some really big things just by studying about him. And I think his son and I actually have the same birthday, which I thought was really cool when I was studying him. So yeah, just a few things I learned from him. I learned that staying in that space for long periods of time over the course of my lifetime may not actually be very good for me.
Yes.
That was a big one that I took home. I also took home from studying about him how being in that trance state and kind of giving up ownership to my body could actually, if I wasn't careful and mindful and aware, it could actually cause me as a person to be kind of used and abused by other people who, have their own agendas. And so I'm not from a fear space, but just like hey, you have this skill, you need to be aware of this adaptation or this issue with it. So there were a few things. I can't remember. I think my team had me studying about Edgar Cayce before I knew that I could do trance mediumship. So that came, I just thought, this information was wildly accurate from things I had downloaded and received, and that there were more people out there that do this thing. But it was woven into the fabric very early on for me, teachings about Edgar Cayce. So how do you remember for you how his name came across your awareness, or because I honestly, I can't even tell you for me where the first connection between Edgar Cayce and I began.
Well, my parents were hippies.
Okay.
So they studied at the ARE, which is the Advanced Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach. And they had stopped practicing when my sister and I were born. They just kind of got out of it. But they were big on metaphysical things. So once I got out of the military, when I was working with the government, I had a civilian job. And my world was just crashing down around me. I hated the job I was in. I had to give up the guy I was dating and living with. Wow. I couldn't afford my rent. I was in chronic pain from just neck things. The doctors couldn't figure out what it was. And as soon as the guy moved out, I had a ghost come to my house. Like, this thing would not let me sleep. It would be touching me in my sleep and pulling my covers off. And like, what? I've never seen anything like this before. I've never felt anything like this before. So I told my father, he's like, you have to go to the Edgar Cayce group. I'd always been interested in spirituality. He's like, just go. They have a bookstore. You can find anything you want. So I actually ended up going to a 2-day retreat with the Edgar Cayce group in the mountains of North Carolina.
Nashville? Is that Nashville?
I can't remember where it was. But I remember crying for 2 days straight, just purging all of this stuff that I'd accumulated from the military by working with the government.
Wow.
And finding that I'd really lost touch with that whole spiritual side of myself for so long that it was just building up these toxins. And I couldn't get enough after that. I started going to the ARE every month. I would drive down there. It just became an obsession. And you're absolutely right. His story of just giving and how he gave to the point where he did die from it. It's just an incredible story. People taking advantage of him, but his information lasts to this day.
It's like volumes and volumes.
Absolutely incredible man. So yes, he would be my first and probably most major mentor that I've ever had in the spiritual world.
Love that.
It just means so much to me.
When you and I were talking before we went live, you were talking about the priestess training that you're wrapping up and some other courses that you're involved in. And, it sounds to me that this is like spiritual, like nourishment and food for your whole being and your whole soul. And I really, really get that. And I appreciate it. But I'm curious because I'm so spirit guided. my team kind of directs the course of my training. Obviously, if I'm interested in something, most likely, you know, you get filled with that like electric excitement feeling, then that's on course or trajectory, most likely. Between me and my team, there's only been like one subject that the divine stepped in back when I was reading about Edgar Cayce, I think. It was like extraterrestrials and life out there. I was told back then, like, don't open that door yet. Like, it was too much for your system. That was the only time where I was like, well, that's really interesting, and I wonder so I was told you'll have plenty of time for that later. So anyway, I was just curious. It seems to me like what I get from you, so much of what you like learning about, like there's layover or crossover or hidden meanings right in plain sight kind of thing. And I feel like your brain finds that and kind of pulls it out and then it adapts it to today's world. Do you feel like the nudge or the guidance from the divine the whole time, or do you feel like it's like that electric current, like you get shown? How does that work for you?
Well, you know, even when I was a kid, I kind of called myself a code breaker, because I see patterns and I see how things connect in a very unusual way. So I've traveled all over the world. I've traveled to over 30 countries, and I will see symbols in various countries that match or have similar meanings, numbers that appear in multiple places, education that appears in multiple places. And for me, it's like chasing clues. It's like a giant game of where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? You know, I'm just constantly chasing the clues around. And for example, I got into energy work with Donna Eden because I walked upstairs one day in this conference and they're having a class, and I just sat in and I saw immediately the results. I was like, oh my gosh, you could use that for this, this, and this. And I'm just off to the races. So with alchemy has always been an interest of mine. It wasn't one, it didn't fit quite into the puzzle until I just said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to start studying it. And I learned that the 7 steps of alchemy corresponded perfectly with the 7 chakras in the Kundalini awakening, which led me to Buddha's 7 factors of awakening and Mary Magdalene's 7 wraths. I just started chasing that. And then I saw that the Peruvians, the Incans, and the cultures before the Inca also had similar 7 steps of ascension. So the bottom line of all of it was I started to see how divinely created the world was, and not just the world, but the ancient information that we've been teaching ourselves for centuries. It has to be right. If, you know, Buddha was teaching it here and the Incas were teaching it here, how could these 2 disparate groups get the exact same information?
Yeah, I always call it the same source method.
Right, absolutely. So that's where that term intentionality came from. Was my guides kept saying intentionality means divinely created. It's created with a divine intention. So yeah, it's a giant treasure hunt, and every single day I learn something new, and I love that. You're absolutely right. It's food for my soul.
Nice. Well, that makes me excited for even the people that you're teaching. Then, so I guess I have one more question, and then I promise I'm going to let you dive into the dreamscapes. My other question was, you know, for every topic out there, and again, like this is my impression because I get primarily taught and trained by my team. I have journals and notepads and paper everywhere from, you know, receiving guidance, and then they use outside sources to validate what they've taught me. So I'm curious, because of the way you're kind of being guided or taught also, do you ever come across like texts or books where it's just like so out there that it's, you know, when you read it, that it's more fiction than facts?
Sometimes.
And I'm not going to ask you to tell me what they are, just because you know there's so much information out there, and a lot of times they conflict with each other.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, because of the volumes that you're consuming, you know, how do you have like that filter where you're like, meh,
For
not
sure.
this author, or this is crap, whatever.
Definitely in religions.
Okay.
Studying the religions, and I've studied all of the different religions multiple times. And in the military, I would say I studied Islam a lot. You know, I was in a counterterrorism field. So reading the different texts is very hard for me. Because you can see the contradictions from one story to the next, not just in Islam, but in Christianity, in Judaism. And if you go through and you look for similarities, they're absolutely there. And there's a lot of similarities, but the spin, you can almost feel when a human has put their spin on it.
Gotcha.
You feel it's controlling versus uplifting. That's really how I gauge it. It's like, that does not feel right, what you're saying here. I can't see a God or spirit saying, you know, this.
Yeah.
So I have absolutely come across that quite a bit.
That resonates for me because, okay, so you know that I teach people like divine communication. And so there'll be that in-between period where a client or student of mine is starting to receive guidance, starting to receive downloads. And then a lot of times they'll get something that like scares them or makes them nervous. And they'll bring it to me and they're like, you know, can you explain this? What is this about? And if it's ominous or threatening or foreboding or anything, it literally is their own fear filter projections around it. It's not the divine guidance. The divine's never going to be, you know, shaming or guilting or commanding or demanding, you know, none of that. So I feel like I understand like what you mean about that, like the temperature, the vibe of it. If it doesn't feel, you know, soft, gentle, all-encompassing, loving, encouraging, balanced. You know, if it feels rigid or exclusive, then you start to be like, I think we might have gone off track here a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've been studying Joan of Arc recently.
Wow.
And her story is a great example of that. You know, her voices, what she called her voices, or her angels, they fought for so long to say that her messages were lies and that they were demonic. But her messages were never negative. They were never there to bring her down or to control her. They were clearly guiding her and guiding her correctly. And when you read her story, the way that men were fighting against her and the way her guides protected her really shows where those guides were coming from, what their goal was versus that negative side of ego.
Right. Well, I'm going to let you jump in. I'm excited. And thanks for sharing that. I did not know that about Joan of Arc. This is where you're going to just end up being like this plethora of information. And I love history. So I could probably sit here all day and listen to you teach us about it. Before I unleash you, do we want to jump into the comments and just see any questions that way? And then we'll take questions maybe at the end. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Okay, so let me see what we've got really quick here. I see you, Teresa. Hi, Kason. Kason's asking if we're recording. I'm pretty sure the live stream will stay in our group. Somebody else asked, what kind of alchemy? Can you go into specifics? Does it link with your other practices like dream interpretation and intentionality? So I'll let you handle that one.
Alchemy is all about spiritual ascension, is really dumbing it down. But a lot of people think of alchemy as changing material things. And that's lesser alchemy. That would be changing tin into gold, right? Spiritual alchemy, which is the higher alchemy, is changing tin, which is your ego, your human self, into gold, which is your spiritual self. So it very much matches the same processes as changing material. What I've noticed and how it corresponds to dreams is the dreams are trying to help you do the same thing. They're trying to help you get past the ego to create a higher spiritual self. And as you move through these phases, as your metal changes, your dreams change with it. The messages change. And they can become more vivid. You can actually start to get into that lucid dream state, which is when you know you're dreaming and you actually interact. So you will absolutely see how that alchemy process, that process of ascension, completely affects your dreams.
I'm mind blown already.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. And I'm just, I think for me, like I receive these facts and I'm like, how does that apply to me? And I'm actually one of those people. I think I've only had maybe 1 or 2 dreams in my entire life that I can remember being aware that I was dreaming and being able to change, like, interact with the dream or whatever. So I'm just so excited to learn. So go ahead, do your thing.
I've got one question about what snakes mean. And I got to say for Lisa and for anybody who has very specific symbols in their dreams, they do mean different things for each person. So the real question is, what do snakes mean to you?
Nice.
So snakes in symbology and ancient traditions mean wisdom. They're not bad. They're nothing negative. They've been given this stigma to really keep people away from it. But Mother Gaia in the beginning was known for her snakes. Her priestesses would care for the snakes. And they were very in tune with Earth, and they could warn them when earthquakes were coming and all this other stuff. So I'm a big fan of snakes. They are straight up Mother Gaia to me. Kidnapping. What does kidnapping mean? It can mean a lot of different things. Let me take a step back on that one for a second. So the purpose of dreams is really to help you connect with information you're not able to connect with in your waking life, either because you're too busy, the world's too loud, or you're just not ready to hear those things. So it's really like your factory of the soul. It's where you go and you do all of this work at night to really help prepare you to ascend, to grow your soul. It can absolutely help you on a day-to-day basis with work, deciding which job to take, deciding how to deal with coworkers. They call this, it's like a day drift, when you get messages from your day kind of filtering in. Mm. And then there's the higher level, which are lessons. So a lot of the dreams that you have, especially if they're recurring, like being kidnapped, being chased, jumping off of cliffs, as frightening as those dreams are, you almost have to take a step back from them and look at them through different techniques, different lenses, to figure out what lesson you need to learn from them. So, for example, John Lennon had dreamed about a plane crash before he died. He dreamed that he was in a plane crash. Now, I don't know why he recorded it, but this was clearly a premonition type of dream for him. Mm-hmm. It was so realistic that he recorded it. He wasn't a known dreamer. So how do we get in and create a conversation with our dreams so that they can help us grow, so they can help us be safer and act as real warning systems for us? Now, there's a 1,000 different techniques to do it, but each person has to interpret their own dreams. And this is really something they don't tell you, and why there's 1,000 books on dream interpretation books. They're going to tell you exactly what the golden eagle means. And every time you see it, it means X. It just doesn't work that way. Dreams are as individual as our blood type, our skin type, our hair color. We have to find for ourselves what they mean. So one of my favorite interpretation techniques is to look at the symbolism. And you actually create your own symbol dictionary. So I've always got journals with me everywhere. I journal like a crazy person. When you wake up in the morning and you write down your dream, even if you only remember a little bit of it, go back through what you wrote and pick out the symbols that stand out to you. For example, the snake or kidnapping. What was in your hand? What were you wearing? Anything that really stands out. And you write it in a column on the left-hand side of your page. For example, snakes. Then you go into a meditative state. You don't have to go deep. And you just ask yourself, what do I think of when I think of snakes? What does that mean to me when I think of snakes? Oh, they're creepy and they're crawly. maybe that's it. And I'll write that on the right-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm doing by doing this is telling my dreams I'm paying attention and creating a language with my dreams. It's like we're trying to interpret each other. They're
Mm-hmm.
trying to give me messages. I'm trying to learn those messages. So if I tell my soul that snakes just mean creepy crawly, they're going to know to use that message for me in the future, that I've understood that. And same thing for people. People in your dreams aren't necessarily the people in your lives. They mean something to you. They invoke an emotion. So I had a very contentious relationship with my mother. She was abusive, drug and alcohol. So when I dream of her, 15 years since I haven't seen her, I know it's not her, it's what she represents to me. So I have to go back in, and you can rewrite your dreams with the interpreted symbols. For example, last night I dreamt I was bit by a snake out in the garden. Well, because I know snakes are creepy crawly, last night I got hurt by something creepy in the garden. And you just kind of pull it out and rewrite it like you're rewriting a story, like Mad Libs. And it can actually start to unravel its meaning to you when you pull the symbols out and put in what they evoke to you, what they mean to you. A very, very powerful technique. And your dreams will start speaking to you in the language that you understand too. They want you to understand.
Right, right.
So the symbols is by far my favorite. Some of the other techniques to figuring these out is to really treat your dreams like a puzzle, right? You don't necessarily know what the picture is, but you know there's a picture. So this is a great time to grow your intuition, is really pay attention to what pops out for you. When you write your dream down and you read it back, what resonated, what stuck with you? Because that's going to be something important. That's something you're going to want to look into more. This is one of the reasons that dream groups are so powerful, because you get everybody's intuition coming in, and they can help you see things that maybe you didn't understand before. So the symbols and your intuition, it all creates this beautiful tapestry of what your dreams are really looking into. So I'm just going to keep rolling. Unless you have any questions, please stop me.
I was just going to chime in, if you don't mind.
No, please.
It's just you're speaking a very similar language to what I teach in divine communication, and I just thought I would share. Is like number one rule when the divine is sending us messages, it can be through our dreams. And what I tell people is, when they see like this signs and symbols, you go through a period of time with divine communication where it starts out with signs and symbols, and that kind of bridges the gap until you get like all your clairs online and super activated. And so what I tell people is, it's important what these symbols mean to you, like your specific reference. So I ask a lot of people when they're brand new, like say you're just brand new, you to choose like one or two resources and let that be your guide. Because almost like too many, for example, like if you look up the spiritual meaning on Google of like a crow, you can get a ton of responses. And so for the divine communication part that I teach, I usually ask people, like, pay attention to what you're drawn to, what stands out to you, what gives you like that heart flutter or goosebumpy feel, that resonating thing, and then try to build your language. Use one particular resource or two to predominantly be your guide. So I just wanted you to know we're crossing over even in what we're teaching. I know you're talking about dreams and mind's divine communication, but you're singing the same kind of theories and practice and logic around it. And then also I channel divine guidance each month. And it gives me, it's called an energy forecast for the month, what to expect. And snake medicine is the theme for the next 3 months.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And the guidance, and I just got this a few days ago, and the guidance that came with it was, it matters most what your relationship is with the snake medicine, but it can be like one of all, all of these things. It can be transformation, it could be healing, it could be, some people are going through a shedding process, and snakes, when they're shedding skin, can get a little bit cranky. So anyway, in regards to the person's dream and seeing a snake, I think it would be important to point out like, what was the snake doing? What was what shape was the snake in? And was it hunting? Was it resting? Just kind of like all those points might be really important to visit and look at. But I imagine a lot of people are going to have snake medicine show up in the next 3 months. Just, and you can validate that. We'll talk again in June, and you tell me how many people came to you and said they saw the first 3 months of the year was a tiger.
Mm-hmm. Which is my spirit animal.
Is it really?
I am a big fan of the tiger. Absolutely.
Nice. That's amazing.
And you're absolutely right. It is no different than learning to channel and get in touch with your clairs. It's just in a format that we're so confused by at first. I guess just like messages when we're awake.
Yeah.
It feels like so much stimulation that we can't really pick out what's important. But once you do that, once you start honing those skills, it becomes much, much easier to really have a two-way conversation with them.
Mm-hmm. And I think your reference about it being like a puzzle is perfect.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, that's where the dream journaling becomes crucial. If you want to learn your dreams, you've got to write them down. Even if you only remember how you feel when you wake up, write the date at the top of the page. And I feel angry or I feel great. You don't have to necessarily know why, but you're training yourself to start remembering your dreams, even if it starts at that step. Because I don't believe anybody who says they don't dream. I don't think it's true. But everybody can learn to remember them with intention and with practice. Mm-hmm. So dream journaling is crucial. And as soon as you wake up, the first thing you want to do before you move is write down everything you can remember from your dreams in as much detail as you can. And just like with getting messages from spirit, don't worry about if it was actually part of the dream or if it's your imagination. Write it down, because the line between imagination and intuition is so fine that you can't be wrong. You can't be wrong. You're not going to get it wrong. I promise you. So
and spirit is insistent.
Yes.
The reference will keep showing up like a record stuck.
Absolutely. And it's the same thing for dreams. This is why we get recurring dreams. It's because we're not listening. We're not learning the lessons. There is definitely a higher level of that, which is dream work, when you're actually leaving and traveling in your dreams. Wow. That could also be recurring dreams. But for the most of us, especially if it's very stress-inducing, it's a lesson that we're just not paying attention to. So definitely dream journal. And there are 1,000 different forms and templates to use, but freehand works. Get yourself a piece of paper and a pen. It's pretty cheap, pretty economical. You can carry it with you anywhere. They have these very cool light-up pens. That the tip lights up so you can write in the dark so you don't wake up your spouse. I got to the point where I was waking up 2 or 3 times a night just to record my dreams.
Wow.
Because my brain was so insistent that I get them on paper.
This is amazing.
And this was the height of the dream course that I took. We were doing weekly dream groups, which is when a bunch of people come together and share their dreams. And you could see everybody's dreams getting more vivid as the weeks went on.
Really?
The messages were becoming more powerful.
Wow.
And the connection of the group was, we were syncing with each other to a point where we could interpret somebody's dream in a session where before you might get lucky and be able to pull a couple pieces of it. But it's a very intense process when you start paying attention to it. It really is unlocking a whole new world.
Right, right.
Very, very cool world. I love my dreams. I really enjoy the craziness of them. And I used to, one of the first spells I tried as a child was to get me to go back into a dream so I could finish it. You know, you always wake up at the good point. So I remember, this was before Google, buying like a little spell book, maybe 12, just to find some way to go back into my dreams so I could finish them. And that's completely possible too. Not with a spell.
It worked?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I was 12, who knows? But you can do that. You can ask your dreams questions. You can write down a question on a piece of paper and put it under your pillow. You can record yourself asking a question over meditation music that you like and just have it playing in your head while you're sleeping. You can just set the intention, I will remember my dreams. All these things absolutely help. Nice. You are opening yourself up to the divine in your sleep state. Is really what that is. Do we have any questions on? I got a ton of tips to help remember them, if those would be helpful for people.
It's so great.
But one of the hardest things that people find is, how do I remember them?
Mm-hmm.
So other than intention, there's different techniques to set a, not an agenda, but a pattern, a ritual, a schedule for when you're getting ready to go to sleep that can help. So a lot of people talk about no alcohol close to bed, no sleeping pills, because that will make your dreams harder to understand. It takes you into a weird REM sleep versus where you're actually going to dream. And when you wake up, don't move. Hold still, because your dream is almost imprinted on the shape of your body that you were when you first woke up. As soon as you shift or roll over, your brain starts saying, okay, it's time to go, time to do. But if you hold in that position and try to think back over the dream, and this is very much like I talked about with my my treasure hunt, start pulling whatever you can remember. You remember feeling good. Okay, great. Follow that. Well, I see an image of red. Great. Follow that image. See how much of the dream you can recreate. And you would be really surprised how much just a feeling can help you uncover and remember what happened. It's actually pretty profound when you do that. Other people talk about drinking water right away to help just clear and get the energy flow, the clean energy flowing. I definitely the not moving one works for me. And I have my book and my pen right by my bed. So I'm usually a side sleeper. I'll just reach over, grab it, and just start jotting down. But going through the dream mentally before you write it down is very helpful for some people.
Okay.
Just to give you time to kind of flesh out the details. And I said, whatever you remember, even if you don't remember it being in your dream, but it's coming to your mind while you're writing, write it down. Because it's going to be important.
Right.
So there's definitely a lot of ways to help train you and stimulate the willingness to remember your dreams.
When I support people, whether it's divine communication or energy healing, I kind of have a policy where they don't consume drugs or alcohol, because the energy medicine that I provide, and even the energetic entrainment that comes by working with me, the best outcome of the transformation is to have no lower vibrations that would kind of knock out, it kind of nulls and voids my channeling, my energy medicine, to have drugs or alcohol in the system. So it's always a conversation I have to have with my clients. And then the side effect that usually occurs is that their dream state kicks it up a notch. And I've always felt, and then they want me to interpret that, and I'm really not an interpreter. You know, I teach divine communication, and as we're realizing and discussing, there's a lot of crossover. the dream state is a space where the divine can communicate with us. But some of what we're receiving is our subconscious also communicating with us. And I think that's what I'm understanding even about with the journaling. So somebody can kind of feel their way through all of that. So I'm just really glad that you're mentioning to people that medications or alcohol can really make a difference on the types of dreams that they're having, or whether or not they are remembering their dreams. So just, your vibration's higher too, which makes you a better match for divine communication and insight.
And just on a physical level, if you are doing anything that's a diuretic, you're gonna have to get up and pee all the time. You're gonna have a hard time getting into a dream state.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some physical needs.
Yeah.
So there's a great acronym that I like to teach people to record their dreams. So when you're writing it down, I can tell you write as much detail as possible, but a lot of people don't really know what that means. So there's an acronym. It's SCIRC, which is not a great acronym, but it's setting, characters, event, response, and conclusion. The setting is the location, the time, what's the weather like, what was your mood. The characters, who was the main character in the dream? Who were backup characters? Were any of them known to you? Are any of the animals that you have in your life there? The event, what is happening? What is happening in the dream? What action is going on? The response, how do you respond to what's going on, and how do the other people respond? Are they paying attention? Do they see it happening? All these have meaning. And conclusion, what was the last thing you remember when you woke up? So SCIRC, I don't know who came up with that acronym, but it was one I was taught. So very, very helpful if you have just a hard time remembering what's important. It's the settings, the characters, the events, the responses, and then the conclusion. You're almost writing your own story every morning. You're writing a short story. And some of them get long. So if that is a problem for anybody, practice shorthand, just like they do with waiting tables. You write down keywords instead of full sentences. And those keywords will help bring you back into that mind state once you're ready to interpret. You do not need to interpret a dream when you wake up. Just write it down. Come back to it when you're in the right headspace to really dive into it. So keywords, short phrases will help you get back into it. And for anybody who's very artistic and likes writing, a great technique is to go back to whatever their dream was a couple days later and turn it into a short story, like a genuine short story. Write it as if you're writing it for somebody else. And when you're done, read back over that story, and your messages are all there. Wow. Every added detail you put in there to make it flow like a story, those are real. Those are real details for you. I think they called it the fairy tale technique. And I love that one. It's such a pretty way to do it for anybody who's very much into journaling already. Did we have some questions over there?
I'm one of those people where, like, I have very vivid dreams, but the longer I'm awake, the less I remember. So I tend to remember the tail end most vividly. While you're fielding questions from the audience, I was actually going to just share with you mine last night. I was pregnant, and probably in definitely last trimester, possibly even the last month of the pregnancy. And I was with an ex of mine who's also the father of one of my sons. And our relationship in the dream had domestic violence in it, to the point where I was afraid that he was going to injure the child that I was. And so I spent half the dream trying to get out of the situation. And by the time I woke up, I was just planning the escape, but still there. And I just kind of like woke up so stressed out. And I have dreams about me being pregnant a lot. And to me, that usually symbolizes a project I'm about to give birth to. That's my association with pregnancy up until now in my dreams. And I'm always working on a project, so that I'm like, ooh, something new is coming. But the whole domestic violence issue has never really been in my dreams, I remember before. Domestic violence was a part of my past, like childhood and upbringing and previous relationships. Not so much with that particular ex, which I thought was really interesting. But so I don't know if you have any food for thought around that. I was trying to mentally plug it in when you gave us the acronym, just to kind of feel that out. And I almost feel like I did not wake up from the dream scared, but I did wake up stressed. Like I needed to do something, but I wasn't sure what it was. So I probably need to maybe sit with it some more. But do you have any feedback or advice around that one?
Yeah, a couple things actually. So what I want to do is show you how we'll actually do a little dream group right now.
Is that okay?
Dream. Absolutely. So
okay.
The first thing I need you to do is to say the dream as if it's happening now in first person. So try to remember the dream in present. You're making it present tense. So
that sounds like it's going to get emotional.
It can. If it's too emotional, you don't want to share it. Absolutely. But this helps you remember details and also to get those feelings back up. So, for example, starting off, I am pregnant. I am in such and such.
I'm hiding in a particular part of the house, planning my escape. I can hear my ex in another room yelling for me, and I know that if he comes through the door, that it's going to be physical harm for me and my child. And how I'm going to escape this room and not get harmed is like what I'm stressed about.
Right.
Like getting out of that space, short term and long term.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and for anybody watching this as well, what the group will do is anything that stuck out to you that you want clarification on. For example, like where were you hiding? What room were you hiding in?
Intuitively, I feel like it was a bathroom, but am I getting like a clear flashback of it? No.
So, where did you say this was?
It was in a house, not a house that I recall like actually being my house. But it had a sense of, I think in my dream, it was supposed to be my home.
Now, you were the only person that you saw in the dreams?
Yeah. And my ex that I can recall. See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
This is just like the tail end as I'm coming out. I'm like, whoa.
And you were pregnant, but you have your child now, right?
I have 3 sons, yeah, and they're very grown. Yeah, we're good.
What was your ex yelling for you?
That is such a great question. I think he was just commanding my presence. Like I wasn't allowed to be hiding in this bathroom. He wanted me to be out there answering him. I'm not sure what the confrontation was about, but it was the fact that I wasn't coming when I was being called.
Actually, something about that statement gave me chills. You weren't allowed to hide anymore. You weren't allowed to stay hidden. Does that mean anything to you? Is that a pattern of behavior or something that's...
I consider myself a pretty out and proud and loud kind of gal. So I'll have to sit with it. Yeah, I'll sit with it.
Now, do you know if you're afraid of him or afraid just in general?
I have a nervousness with this person in real life. Like I always say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing. My response is always foul. When it comes to him, I walk away like wishing I had done that whole situation differently, like every time. So I always have in real life even nervousness, but in the dream I was actually afraid that he was going to hurt me and the child.
So what I'm being guided to do is the symbol one that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So I've written a couple symbols down, and we're gonna reword them and then say the dream again. And actually, either I can read it or you can read it, and we'll see if that resonates with you at all.
Okay.
So
I'm sweating.
Are you? Sorry. Okay, so we're gonna start with the house. What does the house? What does your house mean to you, or what kind of feelings does it invoke?
In real life, my house is to be my sanctuary. In this dream, it felt like more like a cave or a prison. It wasn't the sanctuary that I strive for in my home.
And what did the bathroom make you think of?
I think a bathroom represents the place where we're our most private, our most intimate, right? I think what goes on in a bathroom, I don't know about you, but I don't share any of my not even with a spouse. I don't share my bathroom businesses. I don't allow really anyone in the bathroom with me. So for me, that would be the most sacred, the most private, the most personal space where if I go there, I should be the safest. That's how I would relate to that space.
And how about pregnancy?
I think that's when we're the most vulnerable if we're under attack. Especially, like I said, this was supposed to be like the third trimester. So I think that's when we're most gearing ourselves toward, like as a mom, you're planning for when this child's going to be in the world. It's less about the womb for me at that point and more about them being able to take care of them outside of the womb.
So almost like new life.
Mm-hmm.
And how about hiding?
What's my relationship with hiding?
Yeah. How were you hiding? Like what, just inside the bathroom? Do you remember if you were cowered down?
The farthest corner, standing straight up, trying to become part of the wall.
And the ex. What you mentioned a couple things with him that he kind of makes you feel like you're insecure and you're not quite comfortable in your own skin around him.
Yeah, very judgmental, very critical. Back in my unhealed empath days, he was the narcissist that I would kind of like dance with. So just his personality brings all my wounds to the surface, and it's almost like an automatic response that I'm almost not able to control.
And how about yelling? I think yelling would probably be the last one.
What's my association with yelling?
Yeah.
It literally like almost shuts my brain down. Like that's probably one of the quickest ways to get me into a fight or flight state.
Huh.
You said, like a therapist. I'm so
nervous.
No,
I'm sorry. I do have that problem. I'm told that that's an old military thing. Like, that's interesting. That's interesting. That's how, whenever I brief, that's how I
do it to my clients too. I'm normally on that side.
So let me see if I can reword this. And I just want you to, obviously use your feels.
Okay.
And let me know if anything resonates with you.
Okay.
So you're hiding in some type of a prison. You're in a safe, private area inside of this prison, hiding in the farthest corner, knowing you can't come out. You're carrying new life at its most vulnerable stage, something new, a creation, and you're hiding from something that makes you insecure, you're hiding from um, criticality, you're hiding from something that brings back your wounds. And that fear is making your brain shut down so that you feel the need to escape.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of symbolism in there to really think on. The pregnancy, if you change the pregnancy, especially the pregnancy and the X, I think those are big keys.
Okay.
If you change what those mean in the story, does pregnancy mean a new project, a new life, a new creation, or just that feeling of birthing something new? And his energy of that insecurity, you know, kind of bringing you back to a place. It's almost that juxtaposition of moving forward versus this fear that pulls you back. And that hiding in one place that you feel safe, but the house itself feels like a prison. Like it feels like breaking out of something. I don't know if that resonates at all with you. And that old fear acting on you in something that triggers you, which is the yelling.
Yeah.
I mean, that gives me chills. It feels like you're creating something great, and maybe just some old fears are coming at you. Does that resonate at all?
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm getting emotional about it. Yeah. Yeah. So I appreciate you looking into that.
Oh, sure. I love dreams. It's whatever it is, and going into them, what that'll do is give you a chance to, when you go back in, you'll start seeing that the messages will be similar, but you won't be hiding in a house. It'll be something else that evokes that same emotion. And that's a great way of spirit telling you, especially consider you already said it, those are old wounds, that's old stuff. Spirit's telling you, hey, you already know that these are triggers.
Yeah.
Spirit's an amazing thing.
I know,
Really
right? Right? And what a way to show up and show me in a way where I'm maybe less resistant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could try the fairy tale thing if you wanted to create an ending for your story. Go in there and write an ending for the situation. Do you escape? Do you charge out? You go out and beat down that old ex or ego? It's a great way to take it through to fruition.
All right. I like that idea. That sounds very like empowering.
For sure.
Yeah.
One of my recurring dreams is always this. I fight a lot in my dreams. You know, I'm not a passive person. I fight a lot in my dreams. But for me, the dreams where I'm slow punching and I'm trying to protect myself, and I'm moving so slow, I know that I can't defend myself. And it's a recurring thing in my dreams, and it brings up not necessarily that I'm going to have to go out and fight for my life, but those feelings of insecurity and feeling vulnerable. That's always a trigger for me, that I'm feeling very vulnerable about something right now. I'm feeling powerless. So how do I, in my conscious state, go into that and release that feeling?
I like it. I love that. Okay. So if you want, I'll give you an update after
I would love to, yes. And if you make a story, I would love
and I think what I really want to sit with is like, what is it? And is it just one thing that I'm feeling, I guess, apprehensive or nervous or, you know, feeling extra vulnerable about bringing new life to? So we'll see.
For sure. And what is the new life? Are you got a pretty good idea of what that would represent?
No, that's what I mean. So if you know me, you know I've always got a few like irons in the fire, a few things in the works. So I think everything that we're working on, it brings us a level of like discomfort, or doing something new, or else it wouldn't be on our list, right? We don't put a bunch of easy stuff on there that we've done 10 times. So yeah, I'm gonna have to sit with it and see which one it is, or if it's just about the whole picture, embracing.
Especially given it's a late trimester pregnancy, might represent something closer to the surface, or something you've been working on for a while.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
You want to grab those questions?
Sure. Let's see what we got here. Where did we go? I see. Oh, okay. Okay, we got to that one. So astral project. So astral projection in the dreams is actually really cool. And I learned this about myself as well, that I astral travel a lot.
Amazing.
And the way I figured that out was sharing my dreams enough, and looking at the patterns of them. So you learn your astral traveling not just from looking at one dream. It's really at looking at a series of dreams, and you start to see that it's almost like you have an alter ego, right? It's not necessarily you in the dreams. It's this alter ego person, which is your higher self. And my higher self was doing all this work. And the dreams were so vivid that I would wake up, kind of tired and whatnot. But for me, once I realized that there was traveling going on, how I found out what I was doing and where I was going was I took it to another level, and I did a regression session, a meditation session, where you go into a deep meditation, just like a past life regression, and you communicate with your dream. You start pulling images out of it and asking questions specifically. There's a theory or a technique called the Gestalt method. It's very much like channeling. So you meditate to get back into that dream. You kind of replay it in your mind. And then you pick a character or an object, and you speak from that character's point of view. I represent this. If you're a door, there's a door in my dream. All right, the door is coming forward to talk, and you have to say it in first person and speak from that door. You're channeling a message from the door image.
Wow.
Or from the X in the dream. You go in and you're speaking from his point of view. What does he represent? I am here for this. Especially for people who like channeling, it's a profound method. You could even go in and talk to the pregnancy and say, I am your future baby, and this is what I represent in your dream. Very cool way to get answers in that one.
Right.
So with the astral projection, changing it into lucid dreams is interesting. There's going to be a lot of trial and error. Getting to lucid dreams versus astral projection is where you can take back some control and interact more. And some people think that that's a really quick way to level up and to ascend, because you can have direct communication with spirit and the conscious in a very real way. So there's definitely music you can listen to that will activate different types of the brain, like lucid dreaming music, that you listen to before you go to sleep. So when you hit your first REM sleep, you would be in that right headspace. And others just talk about intention. So setting on your written piece of paper, I will wake up in my dreams. I will know when I'm dreaming. And once you recognize in your dreams, this is a dream, say it out loud in the dream. This is a dream. And watch how the landscape shifts. And I cannot remember. Amazing. I don't remember if it was Buddha. I can't remember who it was that said when he would tell his dream, this is a dream, he felt like God would come in and talk to him. Just this bright white light would come in, and the dreamscape would disappear, and he was able to just have a conversation. I love that. It's not easy to do. It can be very challenging, but like anything else with practice, it does get easier. So, Adrienne, I hope that answered your question about Astral Projection. That's fun. It's fun. I realized I got like a full-time job in my sleep. It's never over.
That is amazing. Do you have Kaysen's question up there about what's happening when we dream of elevators, escalators, roads, and transportation hubs like boats and stuff like that?
Usually they represent some form of traveling, moving forward. It doesn't necessarily mean physical travel, but it is change. It is moving. I definitely have a lot of dreams of driving very quickly and not being able to take my turn, which for me is spirit telling me, "Hey, slow down. You're missing things here. You're going to miss what's important."
Wow.
I had one dream I called chutes and ladders. Because the whole dream, I was up ladders, I was down elevators, I was on stairs, I was on levels. And it was very much, it was almost like working through the matrix of my ascension process, that moving up and down constantly, moving to the right, to the left, moving laterally, moving back. That's what that dream represented to me, was the struggle of trying to get to a point without slipping back too much. But that's definitely what they have meant for me, and I've seen mean for a lot of folks.
I think I was going to chime in before I read her next question. Well, let me just do that she says, we're spending time in different dimensions and other realities at night, right?
Definitely possible. Absolutely. I wouldn't say every night. Well, I don't know. It's very much the theory of relativity. What is real?
Right.
You're constantly moving through other dimensions. So absolutely. I don't know where. Could be literally anywhere.
Yeah, that's why I call it the dreamscape. It's like this whole other landscape, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's definitely a dimension outside of the third, which we sit in, and probably above the fifth, which we're hoping to get to. It'd be one of the higher ones.
Right. So you and I, you know that I deal with a lot of past life stuff and work and helping people. So one of the things that I've noticed, so it may have been spirit lining up this event for me, reaching out to you, being like, hey, I think my people really could use this conversation. But I also felt like the current world events are triggering a lot of people. A lot of people have had past life trauma where civilizations have fallen, where natural disasters have occurred. And I know intuitively from a past life perspective that those can be almost like latent triggers that people aren't aware of in this time-space reality now, that they dealt with, like, let's say like the fall of Pompeii or something, and so this situation could bring about like this fear for them that they don't quite understand. And then people are messaging me about the dreams that they're having. So I was just curious if you have been getting messages from people about them having like more frightening dreams recently, and if you talk about a past life relationship to the dream conversations.
Yes, absolutely. I've heard more conversations about the dream world, and that's a reality that we're not talking about. Is the cost to mental health of isolating ourselves and living in this level of stress and fear. Having been in the military, I know that I have some PTSD issues. I know that I have certain triggers that other people don't have. What people with that, survivors, first responders, veterans, I was just writing up an ad before I came on for dream work to them specifically.
Wow.
Like, you guys have these triggers. You have this vulnerability, for lack of a better word, already there. You need to find an outlet for this information where you can really go into your messages and remember that you're not alone. If nothing else, dreams remind you that you are not some autonomous flesh, piece of flesh that's just going to die and go away. You have a reason for being here. You have a team with you.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, more than ever, it is so important for us to connect. Because you're absolutely right. It's going to bring up a lot of fears. It's going to bring up a lot of trauma for people that maybe didn't realize they had it.
Right.
And give new trauma to people who hadn't experienced it before.
Right.
It's a very, very stressful situation. And that it's like the boogeyman, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's something you can't see. You don't know if it's going to get you.
Right.
And I can see this just walking around outside in the grocery stores. People won't make eye contact anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you guys do know that, they're suspicious with each other. They're looking at each other like, are you going to give it to me?
Yeah. And right now, like in Florida, our pollen count is like through the roof.
Yes.
And like, I'm terrified to accidentally sneeze because nobody's blessing anybody anymore for a sneeze.
I know. Yeah.
Like, it's a duck and cover. It's a run.
Oh, it's amazing.
I get it. Like, I'm not mad. It's just
spring.
Touch and adjustment. I know.
There's allergies. Not every sniffle, not every cough is going to give you this disease.
Yeah.
This is also why spiritual leaders are handling this situation differently.
Yeah.
Because we see a bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
We've done enough legwork to realize that this is not the apocalypse. We're all going to be fine. In fact, we're probably going to be stronger when we come out of this.
I can echo that for sure.
And especially if you want to get into channeling and dream work and anything spiritual, you have time now.
Mm-hmm.
You've never had time before. You don't have to wake up to rush off to work and to get the kids up for school.
Right.
Take 10 minutes and write down your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Take 20 minutes and meditate while the kids are eating lunch or homeschooling or whatever they got to do. We have been given the gift of time.
I love it.
Huge for these things that you're going to forget because you're too busy. Bring all those back up. And for past lives, how they correspond, I want to see them like sisters. They're like sister modalities. Because past lives are telling you what you've experienced, your gifts and your strengths, your lessons that you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Dreams are essentially telling you the same things. And just like you can remember your dreams and remember your past lives, you can utilize the messages and the lessons and the gifts that you had in your dream state, in your past lives, in your waking life. It's almost like incorporating them into your life. You're bringing them back into your own energy so that you can pull on them and use them. So I love the mix of them, especially to do regressions on a dream. Those are so much fun and so powerful. So if you ever want to team up and do some of those, do some dream regressions, that would be an absolute blast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have another question. So, intuitively speaking, premonitions is kind of like, a forte or an arena that I like to dance and play in. And a lot of my dreams, I say a lot, but maybe less than 50% of my dreams are premonitions. But enough that I pay attention to them because they might have something very valuable or worthy. So from an intuitive, point of view, a lot of my clients want to know how they can pick up this skill. Do you have a suggestion for people that want to be more precognitive or in their dreams, or to encourage the ability to receive premonitions? Is there any magical zabba-dabba-doo you got for that?
Intention is my best magic power. And you can say, especially if you have a very specific thing you need to understand. Should I go here? Am I sick? You can ask very specific questions. That's the best way that I've seen to train that precog in there, because it is essentially giving you information about the future. I don't see why that couldn't grow exponentially to where it's offering it to you because it knows you want these, it knows you need these. They're an entity. I mean, it's just like anything else. You build a relationship and tell it what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to want to help you. The universe wants to help you. So if you want precognitive dreams,
Ask.
you can, ask for it.
Love
And
it.
keep asking for it. And pay attention. If you don't pay attention and you've asked for it, they're going to stop giving it to you.
Right. And I think, one of my lessons when I teach around the intuitive part in the asking is to try to be in as neutral and detached area as possible, because even fear thinking will give you fear-based impressions, which are not always very accurate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why dreams are so emotionally oriented. It's something we understand on a visceral level, on a bone deep level, is fear, is love, is happiness. It's setting the stage to help us interpret the dream. Like, okay, look at this dream as a happy person would. Okay, what does that mean? If you look at the pregnancy in the house from fear, because that's how you felt, what does this mean when you're in fear?
Right.
It's a great way of communicating with us. It's very much a language we understand.
It's amazing. I'm so grateful to have you on here today. So tell all of the people in our Facebook group, like, where they can find you, how they can work with you, all that good stuff.
So I've got a couple different things. I've got a 4-part masterclass for dreaming, which is all the Edgar Cayce stuff.
Nice.
It's Carl Jung, it's Freud, it's everybody. It's the 4 parts take you. Yeah. Oh gosh, Freud and his. I had to do a couple papers on Freud. I am not a big fan of his dream interpretation, mostly because I don't think about penises that much. Neither here nor there. I don't think anybody does. I think that was his own interpretation.
Project much.
Yeah, he's terrible. So the 4-part series it starts with the beginning interpretation, and then you have a dream group at the end, and then it goes intermediate and then advanced. And at the end of each lesson, you try the techniques in the group. So like the Gestalt method, we would do that together, and we would channel from the dreams. So that's a 4-session, roughly 2 every 2 weeks we would do a session. I have one-on-one where you could just bring your dreams and we can work on those together.
Amazing. And
then the dream groups, which are just one of my favorites. I host a dream group every couple of weeks, especially with the quarantine. I've been doing one a week. Nice. I keep the groups to 20 or less so that everybody can share. And this is really where you come and you meld together, and everybody who wants to share a dream can share. You absolutely don't have to, but it's a safe space where nobody's going to question what your dreams were. There's no judgment. You are sharing to get the help of your guides and their guides, and just they're absolutely wonderful. So you find all this information on Intentiality, which is my website, or join the Intentiality Facebook group, and I post updates and the events in there.
And you spelled Intentiality not the regular way, because
no,
I caught that, and you were like, I did that on purpose. I was like, look at you.
Spirit did that. I didn't even realize that wasn't a word for like the first couple months. Because it kept popping into my head. I'm like, what is this Intentiality? So I had to create a definition and everything. It'll be in the dictionary someday. You'll see.
I'm excited about that.
Yes, but I would love to have anybody join the group. And if you had enough people in your group that wanted to do their own dream group, we could absolutely do that. And we could work on some kind of quarantine deal. So we could do it inside your group.
Awesome.
To do that.
Well, if people are interested, they should comment, and feel free to share this with their friends or family members, because, we share these stories, right, in some of our most intimate relationships, either our best friends or our soul sisters, or not always blood, but maybe our spouses. So, if you think that you and somebody else might want to do this with Chris, then let us know. And I would love for people to be able to find you on the Awake TV network. So will you make sure that you share that information too?
Yes, good call. I completely I completely forgot that.
I got you.
So Monday nights, I do a live show on Awake TV Network, which is awaketvnetwork.live. It's at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And every week I do some different, every week's a different show based on my little puzzle pieces. So this whole season has been about the ascension process, using alchemy, using Buddhism, the Vedas, metaphysics, and Mary Magdalene, and showing how their traditions of ascension overlap, and putting exercises in there so people can feel what it's like to open your heart, what it's like to embrace your divinity, and program that into their bodies, into their spirits, so that they can move through the ascension process with more ease. So it's been a great season. We're doing step 6 on Monday, which is all about the intuition and the third eye. It's the power hitter, really.
Love it, love it, love it. That's exciting. So if people sign up to Awake TV Network now, can they review the previous episodes?
Absolutely. There's 70 plus teachers on Awake TV. We've already finished season 1, so there's hundreds of episodes on shamanism, priesthood, feng shui. We've got some qigong instructors on there, fertility doctors.
Nice.
And you can try Awake TV for a week, for a week trial. And if you don't like it, you can cancel at any time. But an incredible resource of information. These are men and women from all around the world that have come forward to do this.
I'm going to check it out. Definitely as a user, but we'll see how the horizon looks about possibly being on there. But at this point, I'm just so grateful that your medicine and your magic is out there and the world's getting the benefit of your, like, the wealth of knowledge that you have. And, you know, I'm able to kind of like tune in intuitively. So I hope you don't mind. I have literally felt Edgar Casey's presence the entire time we've been having this conversation. So I think you did him well today. And
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's just been really, really great to share the space with you and have this conversation. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And thank you to everybody who asked questions. And if there's any others, I promise to go back and look through the comments and reply.
Yes. And thanks for being a member of the Be Your Own Guru community. I love this space. I bet you're going to make some great friends in here.
I have no doubts.
All right. I will talk to you all soon. Everyone, take care. Until next time. Bye. If you want to find out what's coming out next on this channel, make sure that you're subscribed. And if you would like some more holy support, please check me out on patreon.com under Ty the Spirit Messenger. And if you would like to join our wonderful safe space on Facebook, we have a beautiful community called Be Your Own Guru. Until next time, bye-bye.